the more I thought about that, the more I'm like, I find that to be true. The logoed
Yeah.
shirt has become the uniform.
Yeah.
So there's a point to this. So
We're all waiting. Heyo, as Loverboy once sang, everybody's working for the weekend, and so are we as we launch this episode. That'd be number 118 of the Promo UPFront Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Bill Petrie. With me, as always, let's call him the Rear Admiral of Retail today, the one and only Coshocton man himself, Kirby Hasseman. Kirby, how the October are you?
You know what? I'm doing well. Actually, I'm excited that it's October. It's a beautiful month. The foliage is starting to turn. It's I think for me, people talk all the time about they love fall, and I think what they're talking about is October, because what I think of is November, and historically that's not a beautiful month in Ohio.
Right.
But I'm really enjoying the weather so far, and so just got to keep it rolling. How about you, bud?
Doing great. Did my massive cook for my son's fraternity last weekend, 120 kids. It was a lot of fun. Going to the game and watching the Aggies get essentially run out of the stadium, boat raced out of there was not as much fun.
Yeah.
But it's good. But I love this time of year because, like you said, it's the turning of the leaves, the foliage just looking so vibrant and beautiful. And that got me to thinking, Kirby,
Sweet.
as things often do.
Right.
Most people know about Blue Generation and that they're the premier apparel supplier in the promotional products industry with every color, which is really what got me thinking about it, and size available. However, what people don't realize, Kirby, is how Blue Generation is driving corporate fashion forward with their Untucked collection. In fact, right here, I'm wearing one right now. I actually believe in the product because I'm wearing it, and it's the BG 7270. It's designed for casual elegance. The Untucked collection looks as amazing in the office as it does out on the town. And I'm going out on the town tonight in this. I'm going to work all day in this, and then I'm going out on the town just to prove a point. And it showcases the modern and flattering style that people have come to expect from our good pals at Blue Generation. And I know you're a huge fan as well.
I am. And again, you talked about it before. I love all the color options that come in so many of their styles, but the Untucked collection, that's something that our clients ask for. And anytime a supplier meets a need of something that our clients are asking for, it makes our job easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Blue Generation truly understands how to combine quality, style, comfort, and cost effectiveness to create something truly unique in the promotional products industry, the Untucked collection. And hey, I got even a little bit of a better part for you, maybe the best part. Deep inventory with all the supply chain issues we hear about on a seemingly hourly basis in the promotional products industry. Blue Generation has plenty of inventory on hand. So head over to bluegeneration.com and wow your clients with some truly fashion-forward apparel. I might even do a little bit of shopping myself later on today.
Nice.
All right. Well, Kirby, I want to thank you for having the courage to podcast with me today. Before we launch into the podcast, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Hurricane Ian last week and all our friends in Florida who suffered tremendous damage, just amazing amount of damage down there. I know hit promotional products was, no pun intended, hit pretty directly with a lot of it, and got a lot of friends down there. So we're thinking about you.
For sure.
If you want to make any sort of donation, you want to help out the American Red Cross, there's a lot of people in the promotional products industry doing things. I think you can head over to Promo Cares. I believe they're curating that as well. So our thoughts are with you, folks in Florida who are affected by Hurricane Ian. So I have the upfront section of the podcast today, and there was an announcement this week that got my wheels churning a little bit. I'm sure you saw it. PCNA, the former Leeds, they announced a strategic partnership with Sony to produce, or not produce, but to, sell Sony speakers, big name brand in the audio world, been that way for decades. and this has been a huge trend. We've talked about it, right?
Sure.
Alpha Broder has Under Armour and Vineyard Vines. Imagine Brands has their partnership with Coleman, Snugs with Thermos, S&S with Adidas, and obviously Hirsch, who I think really started this 30 years ago, and they
Right.
they have over 40 brands they partner with Brewmate and JBL, and I mean, they're really the leaders in the category. But I wanted to ask you, what was the value, do you think, for suppliers with this? It seems almost like a land grab of, let's make sure we're aligned with some really exciting retail brands. What do you think the appeal is for suppliers? And is this coming from end users? Do you think this is coming from the bottom up in terms of the customers? And being a distributor, Kirby, you're on the front lines. I'd really like your opinion on it.
Yeah. So, what do you usually do? You answer the second question first, and the first question seventh.
Well, I answer the eighth question, letter Z, and then I go all around to do stuff.
Okay. So the second question is this being driven by end users? I think it is.
Yeah.
I think that, and it's what it is it's been being driven by end users for years. And then, I think we're just catching up to it, which I think sometimes we do in our industry. And so, yes, I think that that's something where when it's time for year-end gifts, then clients will say, well, can you get XYZ brand? And so suppliers making the move to fill that need, I think, makes a ton of sense. The thing that kind of gets my mind going when it comes to brands is those the suppliers who make alignments with two things. Number one, brands that are consistent with what they do. So I think Sony, because PCNA does year-end gifts and does, sort of high end to a degree, Sony can make some sense. I think Starline does this well, where they partner with some brands that are really consistent with everything else they put out.
Right.
So when suppliers partner with brands that are consistent with them, I think that makes a ton of sense. But the other thing I'd say is we're seeing brands have more flexibility and margin. Yeah. Like for years, we probably had been able to get many of these brands, maybe unimprinted to a degree, but in the incentive side of the business, right? You could get Apple products years ago, but you were making a 10% margin. And it got, for me, it was like, well, the upside doesn't pay the downside of the transaction for me.
The juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
I love it. And so what I'm seeing now is that I think some of these retail brands are starting to say, okay, we're going to make a partnership where the partnership makes sense, because all of a sudden we can sell it at a margin where we make money, because we're for-profit businesses. And so we have to do that. And then the final thought is the most successful ones are the ones that commit the inventory. And some of the retail brands do that and some of them don't. And so I'm not sure that answers your question, but that's kind of what popped into my head.
I don't even remember the question, so let's just assume you did. Here's what I think after listening to you. I agree with everything you just said. I really do. But I'd like to add a little bit to it that I just thought about. And I think what our industry traditionally, up until I'd say, honestly, 2014, 2015, when PPAI really put out a concerted effort to really have promotional products viewed as a viable advertising vehicle to be seen on par with print advertising, video advertising, things like that.
Right.
And before then, our industry was absolutely viewed as an afterthought, the redheaded stepchild of marketing, the, oh shit, what do we need to give away at the trade show in 2 weeks? That's what we were. And so I think a lot of retail brands were reluctant to have their brand, their logo attached to, Johnny's Auto Repair down the street. Yeah, exactly. You're co-branded right there. You're wearing Under Armour right there. So I think there was a reluctance to that. And I think not just because of the efforts of PPAI, but I think also millennials and Gen Z are saying, we don't care. We just want quality products, because I think that's why you're seeing this groundswell. People still look at brands as higher quality than a no-name brand. I'm not sure that's accurate, but perception can be reality. And so that's what you see. And so, now you're seeing the fruits of like the labor, with, again, Hirsch Gift. They came from the gift industry, hence the name Hirsch Gift.
Right.
We've really perfected how to align with brands that do have inventory and do those
Mhm.
things. And you, like you said, you mentioned some that do and some don't commit to it. So I think that's why you're seeing. I think people are far more comfortable having those co-brands than they were used to. And and I know you want to say something. I know also it is an absolute new revenue stream. Corporate markets is a huge revenue stream when growth is always on the table. We want
Right.
to grow. This is an absolute great avenue for brands to enhance their financials.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think that what you saw is that retail jumping into the corporate branded merch space coincided with retail sales going down. Right.
Yeah.
So they were looking around to go, okay, so this is a $25 billion industry that we've been ignoring. Maybe we shouldn't have been. And I think the other piece of that is that there were brands that went before most of these folks that had success. So
Yep.
Nike is one of the ones that was early
Right.
on, and they did a great job of having success in the corporate space. And so then it gives permission to Under Armour to go, well, they're
Right.
doing it. Maybe we can do it as
Why
well.
don't we do it?
Yeah.
So what do you think the white whale is out there for suppliers? The brand they all want to partner with. Okay, we're going to say Yeti. So let's just move that one off the table because I know Yeti's the one, right? Outside of Yeti, do you think there's a white whale out there that all the suppliers are just salivating to get at? And this is an unfair question because I actually burned a few calories kind of thinking about this. And
I'll give you what
hitting
popped into my head. And I think
Please.
the reason it popped into my head is because, like with Yeti, that's
Mhm.
not happening. The reason this popped into my head is because they just said that we can't do it anymore is Patagonia.
Okay.
There was obviously a change just now in leadership there because he gave away the company to the universe.
Right.
And so there might be a change in that thing. And I think that most apparel brands would be like, come and get it.
Yeah. I had that was on my list. The one I really came up with was a sub brand, which we don't see a lot of. Jordan, the Jordan brand from
That's
Nike.
interesting. Yeah.
That is so popular with not only people of our generation,
Yeah.
but also millennials and Gen Z. And the other one I thought of was Levi's. I think it would be very interesting for Levi's, not in terms of jeans so much. That's a hard thing to co-brand, but I think with jackets or and other apparel, I think it would be pretty interesting. But
Yeah, that's
the one
interesting.
the one I thought of was definitely Jordan, the subset of Nike.
I like it.
Awesome. We're off to a pretty good start here, Kirby, but I gotta amp it up. I have to amp up the podcast because hey, distributors, I have a question for you. Is your marketing working? And if you can't answer that with like the immediate hell yes, it's working, then you got yourself a problem. And you need to reach out to our pals over at Promo Pulse. They can help you consistently amplify your sales through stunningly beautiful outbound marketing that's so easy. You can customize it, you can set it, and forget it in less than 5 minutes. That's right. So head over to promopulse.io/amp. You will not be sorry you did. Kirby, do you have another topic for us that we can discuss on episode 118 of the Promo UPFront podcast that's dropping tomorrow?
I'll give it a run. So a couple weeks ago, I saw an article from, I want to give credit, CJ Mitica over at ASI. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Mitica. CJ Mitica.
Okay, cool. So he told a story of how he and his wife traveled to Mexico on a vacation, and they went through the customs line, and they got their bags, and they did all the stuff. And I love to travel, and I love to travel down to Mexico. So I was like reading it, going, "Yep, I know where you were. I know, like all this stuff."
Living vicariously through CJ.
I totally was, and he talked about finding transportation. And again, as someone who's lived through this, like it is. Like when I give people advice, I'm like, when people start talking to you, ignore them and keep going. Like, because if they are there trying to get your business, get your money, all that sort of thing.
Right.
And so long story short, he was trying to find his transportation company, and his wife and he were struggling, and people kept saying, yeah, it's me. But they weren't. Ultimately, the ending of this story was that the reason they found their transportation, the actual transportation company, is because they had a very specific shirt. They had with a flowered shirt, blue with colorful flowers with their logo on it. the
Okay.
Amstar logo, which is the
Uh-huh.
transportation. So I thought it was a really good article, and it got me
Yeah.
thinking. It got me thinking of, in my own life, that when
Yep.
somebody comes to, Hasseman Marketing to sell us something, or knocks on
Yep.
our front door, which doesn't happen nearly as much as it used to,
Sure.
if they are not wearing a shirt with
Uh-huh.
a logo on it,
Okay.
I think they're full of shit. I don't think they are with the organization they're telling me they are. Okay.
Okay.
That's and the more I thought about that, the more I'm like, I find that to be true. The logoed
Yeah.
shirt has become the uniform. So
Yeah.
there's a point to this. So
We're all waiting.
one of the trends
All
that
right.
we've
Sorry,
seen.
you left the door open for that. You left the
Yeah,
door open. I couldn't resist. But no,
yeah.
I'm engaged. I really am. Go.
Okay. So and I'm looking at myself in the mirror here. As we have developed more interesting and different decoration techniques, I think many of us in the promo space are like, hey, you need to do something other than left chest. Left chest is passe. You can do it on the back yoke. You can do it on the sleeve. You can do it over here. You can do it over here. So my question to you and to the distributors and suppliers who are listening, are we giving people bad advice? If CJ and I and other consumers look to a logoed shirt as sort of, this is the thing that indicates you are a part of the organization you say you are a part of, are we doing organizations a disservice by telling them not to do that?
Before I answer your question, I just want to say I, for one, am shocked that there's corruption in Mexico. That I'm still trying to process. So I'm gonna try to move past that and answer your question. Yes and no. I don't think it has to be left chest. I think the advice you give should depend on the purpose of the apparel. If you're at a trade show,
you just passed, by the way.
You need to be loud and proud, right? Yeah, I know, I passed. You need to be loud and proud. If you're saying, when you're picking up your car service, or when we're picking up, we'll be wearing a shirt with a logo blazoned across the chest. Yes, but you could also say, hey, we're gonna be wearing a Hawaiian shirt and we'll have the logo on the left sleeve. So as long as you need to work with your clients and ask what the point of the apparel is, because I will tell you personally, if I'm exhibiting at a trade show, yes, I want that Brand of 8 logo, very loud, very proud, probably left chest or across my entire chest. But if I'm just wearing Brand of 8 stuff around town, I would like it a little more tone on tone, a little more subdued, a little different decoration technique. So I think what matters is the purpose of the garment, and we're talking specifically about apparel here.
Yep.
To me, it's the purpose of the garment. What is your point? What are you trying to accomplish? Do you want everybody in the world from 20 yards away to know where you're working? Then okay, left chest, across chest, whatever. Is it just, hey, you want some really cool fashion forward apparel? Then we can get a little wacky with the decoration techniques, right? So that's my answer.
And I think it's a really good answer. I'm one of the things I really do try to do is think about what I've been telling my clients and make sure that it's consistent with how, because I think so many times we give advice based on what we're selling, right? And what we think is cool. But the reality of it is, in our industry, we get jaded to, tote bags and all the cool stuff we have to offer, and we don't think it's as cool. And so then we are looking to the shiny new thing. So I want to make sure that my advice matches my consumer behavior.
Right.
And so what I thought about this morning, as I came up with this, was it depends on how you're using the apparel or the thing. If it's a driver, if it's a delivery person, if it's a salesperson, and if they're interacting, then I think, like you said, if you're looking to give apparel to a client that you want to sort of rep your brand, it's a totally different experience. And I think that us being intentional and thinking about that can make the experience much more powerful.
Well, yeah. And look, historically, distributors in this industry do a horrible job of asking any sort of question about the use of merchandise. I think that's changing. I'd like to think it's changing. I go to bed at night hoping it's changing. But historically, we're just like, oh, you want shirts? Let me get you shirts. And we push.
Sure.
We just kind of, this is what you want. And I think, one of the things I wrote down, what I love is that especially in a uniform situation, or let's call it identification, because it could be a uniform, could be trade show, could be door-to-door salesperson, could be
Sure.
in an identification situation, that branded apparel lends credibility. It
Yeah, it
gives
does.
instant credibility.
Yep.
And I think that's the key thing here. Great stuff, Kirby. All right. A couple of weeks ago, our friends over Brand Fuel got their B Corp certification. And I wanted to touch on that. It's great for Brand Fuel. And we know other people who
Kudos.
have
Yeah.
that in the promotional products industry. On the supplier side, I know, for example, Raining Rose is a certified B Corporation. And for those who don't know, what that means, a B Corporation means they meet high standards of verified performance, accountability, and transparency, factors from the employee benefits and charitable giving to supply chain practices and what materials they put in the merchandise. So, the way Brand Fuel looked at it was, what if branded merchandise was a force for good? So it's a very rigorous process, takes years and years and years. I believe it was a 10-year journey for Brand Fuel.
Wow.
Congratulations to them.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Brand Fuel. I want to talk about the B Corp. Well, I don't. I think it's great for them. I think it's awesome. I think it's amazing. But I really want to talk more about the significance of a B Corporation. And I want to ask you again, from a distributor perspective, Kirby, is it important to align yourselves with companies that have B Corp certification?
So I think the stock answer is yes, right?
Well, sure. You don't want to say no.
Right.
I mean,
it's a weird thing. But I think the honest answer is it depends on your client base, right? Like, so there are, I think that many client bases are moving toward that being an important thing. And many buyers are individuals within those organizations. The reality of it is, as a company that lives in Appalachia, Ohio, it's less important to my client base.
Absolutely.
It is. Now, as a matter of fact, we did a campaign recently where the concept was, we did everything that was eco-friendly in the box, the whole 9 yards. We tried to make this whole thing. But we also, with our audience, we didn't want to shove it down their throats too much where it turned off folks that are in our area. And so our message was, try a little harder to do a little better, with the idea that we can all do a little bit more and try and move people in that direction. In answer to your question, it should be really important for us. And I think that the generation also matters. Like, it's more important to my daughter than it is to me, if I'm being totally candid.
I think that's
but man, I am so impressed with the level of work, because I've researched going through that process, and I was like, I don't know if I got it in me. So the idea that they did it is amazing.
It's a rigorous process, and that's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
Okay. What in Fairwear, I think, was the first B Corp in our industry up in Canada, Denise Taschereau and her organization. But what it got me thinking, I think it is important. But I think the certifying body is doing a horrible job making it matter to the consumer. So it's very important to the people at Brand Fuel and Danny Rosen and his clients. It's very important to Denise Taschereau and Fairwear and her clients, and so on and so forth. Same thing for Raining Rose. But to the rank and file dude or gal that's just looking for some promo, I don't think it matters. I don't even think they know what a B Corporation is. I don't, and even after reading it, you almost have to read it 3 or 4 times to really understand. And I'm not sure I do, to be very candid, what a B Corporation, what it means to be a certified B Corporation. So to me, if we want to affect change, if we want people to care, then I think, we talk about organizations
that have super clear about what we're supposed to care about.
We make it. We talk about things that have branding problems, right? We've talked about in terms of diversity. DEI has a huge branding problem. Just start with inclusion. We can all agree that inclusion is important. There's not one person, I believe, on the planet who would say we should exclude people. It starts getting a little dicey when you talk about equity, because it means different things to different people. And the word diversity makes people either tune out or very uncomfortable. You start with inclusion, you got something there. B Corporation, I think they really need to, I don't know how, but really start communicating what that means, why it matters, and why it should matter to you walking the streets of Franklin, Tennessee, or Coshocton, Ohio, or
Mhm.
Sacramento, California. So I love it. Once you really start understanding what it is, it's a super cool thing and it's extremely meaningful. But I think at this point, to the rank and file, most clients, A, won't care, or B, they just don't know enough to care. And
Yeah.
that's the problem of the branding of what it means.
I think the second part is where your point is the most, because I like, and I actually have had this conversation with Denise at one point where I'm like, I want to do better, but
Mhm.
I need to get
You
steps
have to
so that I
balance
can
it
get it.
out.
Yeah, I need to get there. And the point of, it's not that people don't care, it's that they don't understand. Now,
They don't know how to care.
if you're a certified B Corp, you're like, what do you mean? But I think
Right.
many of us need to take baby steps in that direction. So I think it's an interesting point.
I do too. And I think what knowing Danny and his group, what we'll start seeing is a lot of their marketing will be centered around
Right. And
the
I think that's
fact that
part of
they're
it.
B
Yeah.
Corporation. And that will help too. So honestly, kudos to them. It's a
Yes.
truly amazing thing. If you haven't researched it, take a few minutes and just learn what it takes to be a
Yeah.
B
It's
Corp, a
amazing.
certified B Corporation. It's pretty amazing stuff. All right, Kirby, you got another topic, or are we moving right to the Promotional Products Education Foundation football picks?
I think we do that. Let's go to gambling
Okay.
for good if you're ready.
Gambling for good.
Yeah, and so for those who are tuning in and this is the first time you've heard of it, we essentially for the next however many weeks are picking 6 games each week, and 3 in college, 3 in the pros. Bill's done a great job each week of sort of selecting these games, and essentially the person who wins doesn't have to donate, but the person who loses donates $100 to PPEF. And so,
That's right.
how'd I do? Is that good?
You did great. You did great. What's our current? Well, I'll do the current tally.
Yeah.
So current totals. I'm falling a little behind. Last week, Kirby won 5 of the 6. He got 5 of the 6 right, and we just bet straight up win. We don't do against the spread or anything like that. Kirby was 5-1. I was 4-2. So that brings our season tally to date. Kirby, it has 20 wins. He's 20-5. I am 18-7. So we need to get cooking here, kids. We need to get cooking. All right.
Yep.
So week 6, Kirby, you've got it. Your dime, your dance floor.
Well, and I think this might be the week that we balance it back out because I'm not super confident about any of these picks. So
Okay.
here we go.
Okay.
So the first game is TCU ranked 17 at Kansas. They're 19.
Ooh.
Who you got, Bill?
You know, when these two teams play, you throw out the record. You just throw it out because it's going to be a tough game. I'm going to go TCU going into Lawrence, Kansas, and beating the Jayhawk.
So I think that's probably the right pick, but for whatever reason, for those who aren't following along, Kansas historically is a terrible football team. They've been bad for years and years and years.
Yeah.
But they're like 4-0, 4-0, I think this year. And so I'm kind of rooting for this story of them and their resurgence. TCU historically is a much better football team. So I think that's the pick, but I'm going to go with Kansas with my heart, not my head. So I'm going to take Kansas. Next up, we've got number 8, Tennessee playing at number 25, LSU.
Big SEC matchup. So obviously you toss out the records when these teams are going to play. It doesn't really matter. You know, this is in Baton Rouge. I am taking the LSU Tiger.
Yeah, we are going to. So this is.
Sorry, Tennessee, Tim.
Yeah, so that's all right. So again, this was another one I was really struggling with. I am going to go with Tennessee. I think, again, they've been struggling for the last 10 years. So I'm kind of going with the underdog theme. I know they're higher ranked right now, but I'm going Tennessee. Next up, we have Texas at Oklahoma. It's on a neutral site. And they call this the Big River.
The Red River Showdown.
So,
Red River. You can't say shootout anymore. Red River Showdown. This is at the State Fair of Texas at the Cotton Bowl. Unranked. I can't remember the last time these two teams played. Both were unranked. So clearly, I think it's probably smart as you're making your pick. Just throw out the records. You don't need them. Throw out the records. I can never really root for Texas, so I'm going Oklahoma. Horns way down. Yeah,
I am going with Texas. I think Oklahoma is is, well, number one, I knew it would frustrate you. I actually didn't think about that till just now, so that's just extra bonus. But Oklahoma looked bad last week, bad, and so I'm going Texas on that one. All right, so those are our college.
Okay.
NFL. So backup quarterbacks start for at least one team in each of these games.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the note you kind of gave me. So we're going to start with Detroit at New England.
Yeah, this was a tough game to pick because New England's trotting out a backup quarterback, so obviously the records really don't matter. Detroit's been playing tough. Generally, I'd go with the home team here, but I am going to go with the Dan Campbell-led Detroit Lions.
Yeah, they're America's sweetheart team all of a sudden being on Hard Knocks. I think they're fun to root for. I'm going to go with Detroit as well. Plus, again, New England did not look great last week. So
no, they did not.
Okay, next up, Dallas at LA, the Rams. And so this is an interesting game to me with your Cowboys.
Yeah, Rams did not play well on Monday night at all. And Dallas has been riding the Cooper Rush train as their backup quarterback. I think that train comes to a screeching halt because obviously you're gonna have to throw out the records. The records really don't matter in this one at all. Rams in big way.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be big. I actually think it's going to be a pretty close game, but I do agree with you. I think that mainly because the Rams played so poorly last time, and I don't think McVay will allow them to do that. So I'm going Rams there as well.
Okay.
Final game, Miami at the Jets.
Oh, big AFC East matchup. And so when these teams get together, you take those records, you crumple them up in a ball, and you toss them out. You don't need the records. Here's the thing. Miami's not going to play Tua Tagovailoa. I can never pronounce that name right. So I am, but I don't know. Miami's looking really good, but I'm going Jets.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad call. I think it really is interesting to see the new quarterback for the Jets. They got the comeback last week, but I don't think he looked as sharp as everybody kind of said. So I am going Miami. I actually think Teddy Bridgewater as a backup is pretty solid for a week or two. He's one of those guys who can get you some wins. So I think Miami's a better team. I'm going Miami.
Wow. This is going to be a big separation week for us because we have a lot of different picks. But if you're looking to separate yourself from the crowd and really stand out, you can do no better than the Untucked collection from our good pals over at Blue Generation. I'm wearing one right now. That would be the BG 7270. Great fashion forward apparel that has great fit, great comfort, great style, all at a cost-effective price. If you want to learn more, and gosh darn it, why wouldn't you head over to our friends at bluegeneration.com. You're not going to be sorry you did. Kirby, as always, I've enjoyed podcasting with you today, and I look forward to losing many games to you this week.
Thanks, man.